All three of us is fuck.
Ready?
Oh, you go. Oh, okay. Hey guys, so we got our buddy Bryce here. He has a previous welding background, so he's going to take us through what we can do to help us weld better. All right, guys. By no means am I an expert in any ways, but a couple of pointers would be always have safety equipment. Typically, you wear like long sleeves, pants that can protect you from like sparks or things falling. Safety equipment would also include proper eyewear, and then also proper welding hood, because this can really hurt your eyes in many ways. But basically what we're going to do today is we're going to fill just this little crack on the frame. I'm not sure if you guys had seen it or not yet in previous videos, but we're going to fill the crack on the frame there. We're going to clean it out really good, and I think we should probably be able to get it pretty easily with just, you know, one little pass. And then we're going to kind of clean these up a little bit, and then out of some steel that we have here, we're going to make some patches and just kind of clean it up there and put those in there, and just kind of run a bead down and around and clean it up really nice. We're going to be just using a simple AC/DC stick welder and 70/18 rods. So the thing with 70/18 rods is you want to always make sure that you have a very clean surface that you're welding on. It's a little bit more sensitive of a rod than like your 6010 or 6011 rods would be. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and just get started and get this done really quick, all right? Alright, so we're going to be good with that. We're just going to start welding a little bit. All I did with this is I just kind of put a little bit of a groove in it so I can get, it's only 1/8 inch I think, so I want to make sure that I get full penetration here in this little crack so that we have it going the whole way through. And then I just wanted to square up the edges here for whenever we put the piece in so that it fits a little bit more flush on both of these. Alright, so I was just explaining a little bit here, but with something like this, like 1/8 inch metal, you can use there's small 1/8 inch welding rods. These, you can see the difference here. That's a little bigger actually than 1/8 inch. These are 3/32, and then you can go up to like, I don't even know what that would be, 5/32, 1/8 inch, I don't know. But there's different sizes. You definitely wouldn't want to use something like this on metal like this just because of how thin it is, and you would get a lot of burn through and end up melting your frame down, which you don't want to do. On a lot of welders, if you look on top here, you can see there's kind of like a general rule of thumb for which rod you're using, whether you want to use AC, DC, and then kind of the voltage or amps, sorry, that you want to be using. So with this rod, I have it a little high actually, something like this, like a 3/32 70/18. I'd probably end up setting it right around like 100, maybe 95 even, if I was welding like out of position. But something flat like this, you can just run it like right around 100 there. And something like this also with the 70/18s, you want to have clean metal, like I said, unlike like a 6010 rod or something like that. It's like a farm rod. You can pretty much just weld right over rust if you really wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it though, because a lot of times if you weld over rust or dirt, you get porosity, which is like bubbles and holes in your weld, and that'll cause it to be very weak. So, but other than that, yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, especially with a welder like this. You can set it here with your amps, and then your AC, DC, positive, negative. But that's all kind of a little bit more in-depth stuff that I'd recommend you research on your own if you want to start welding. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and just get started with putting this thing together.
One quick question, where did you learn and what's your background for welding?
So I went to Votech in school. It was part of like our school programs. I'm from Pennsylvania from there. So I did welding vocational school, came out with my certifications, and then I worked in a diesel garage for about a year, and then I worked as a traveling welder. I worked like coal mines for Rosebud and stuff like that, doing a lot of stick welding and heavy industrial welding. So, but that's my background. Yeah, another thing really quick, guys, always make sure you have a good ground you can grind down the metal to make sure that you have good contact. And then also, it's not advised that you do it in the rain, because when your gloves get wet, you got to like stick a rod in, like it does it right now. You're gonna get a little zap in the hands. So, but. Oh, don't get that. That's ugly. Couldn't see out of my hood. Here, show them this really quick, actually. If you look here, you'll be able to see exactly what I was talking about. That hole there is from not having everything cleaned out, and I got something in my weld there. But with something like this, we can... Oh. With something like this, you can burn it out on something small like this, usually with a hot rod. Another bead over it. See, like this, right? You see that?
The little holes?
The little splits in it. So I would run another bead over it just to kind of fill that in, and then we'll grind it out. So I want to make sure it looks good. Oh, wrong hood.
Yeah.
Tacking this right now. Alright, so what we did was we welded the top of it and the bottom of it. Then we kind of just hit it with our hammer so that we could get it a little bit more frame, or flush with the frame here, so that it looked kind of like a smoother transition and not like someone just threw a flat piece of metal on there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do the side here. And what you want to do, you can weld down or you can weld up. I recommend welding uphill because you get better fusion and like metal and bead penetration on this groove as you go uphill, versus just dragging it down and just letting it kind of fill in. So I recommend always welding uphill versus downhill.
All right, so one question I have, we have these pretty big holes over here on the side. What do we do to weld in that? Should we put some underneath, or what is your recommendation?
So typically, I mean, it's not sheet metal, so you have some substance to it. You can usually fill that pretty easily with a lesser amp and a smaller rod like this. You can just kind of keep filling it in, but you want to make sure, as you've seen with the other welds, you have slag, which is the hard shell that forms on top, which comes from this powder on the rod here. And you want to make sure you chip that out after each layer, because that slag will end up basically getting impurities into your weld. So pretty much done here. We're just gonna finish up on the bottom. Just gonna run like one bead on both sides. This one got pretty good penetration through, so I'm not super worried about that one. This one had a pretty tight gap, so I'm gonna run a hot bead on there and then we'll be good.
Hey, I really appreciate you coming out today and teaching us and YouTube a little bit about welding. Really appreciate the 45-minute drive you took to come all the way out to the middle of nowhere, Virginia today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed and hopefully you learned a lot just like we did. So next week we're hoping to get to sandblasting, so make sure you stick around, and thanks for joining us here at Restoration Rescue.